No, 12:30. No worries. We just started. All right. So what numbers am I going to put in here? Oops. I was factoring this one. What's my numbers going to be? 8 and 8. Good. Oops. So x plus 8 and x plus 8 also as x plus 8 squared. So these are perfect squares. We worked with these ones earlier. How about this one? What's this one going to be? Good. -2 and -2. Let's go back here. 16 and 64. Well, these two will add when you multiply those together to get 64. These two are multiplied to get 64. And these guys here, that's 8x. That's 8x. And that will equal 16x. Does that make sense, Mia? All right. Let me do some erasing here. Okay, this was, logic says it's 2 and 2, right? And whatever this sign is here, because it's a negative and a positive here, they're going to add to be negatives and multiply to be a positive. So x minus 2 squared. Perfect. I think I have one last one. Can we figure this one out? Good. X minus 6 squared. How does everyone feel about what we just did? That's a quick little review. But I'm going to challenge you to find a pattern for me. Well, first of all, how did everyone feel about that? G for good. I don't know. B for bad. About how we factored all those. Good, good. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, perfect. I'm going to ask you to find a pattern here. So I want you to find me the relationship between the things that I'm highlighting. What do you notice about all the things I'm highlighting? I want you to figure out if you can see a pattern there, see if you can notice something about all the things I highlighted. No, they're not all the same numbers. Now, each one's separate. Like, how would you say this? Let me go through here. Oops. Each highlight is separate, as in, like, these relate to each other. These relate to each other. And let's change colors out to green. And these relate to each other. Okay? So Farley says the factored are half, not the y-intercept, but you're right on. Because the y-intercept's the last number, right? But the factors are half of the middle term, right? And also, if you square them, they make the last term. Does that make sense to everyone? Like, for example, for this one, 6 divided by 2 equals 3, right? And 3 squared equals 9. So that number's right there, right? So what we're actually going to do is we are going to change from standard form into vertex form. So we can pull the vertex out really quick. Okay. And sometimes you may have a question, and you may not be able to factor the equation. So it's actually it's a lot easier to do vertex form in order to get the answer. Okay. So I've put this in 2 places. Actually, I'm going to cover up that part. Let's do mine. So once again, in your notes to self, not in your notes to self, well, they're in your notes to self too. Right here in your content library, I have steps to completing the square. Okay, and we're going to go through this first. Someone at the very end remind me to go over notes to self here. So first things first, let's go through my steps. I'm going to make that a little bigger. Okay. So step 1 says, if A is not 1, and what I mean by A is the number in front of the x squared. Okay? That's your A value, because if we wrote this as standard form, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So if the A is not 1, common factor it from the first 2 terms. Okay? So our A is not 1, so I'm going to common factor it, but only from the first 2 terms. So write 2 down. I'm going to put in these brackets. I'm going to leave the minus 1 over here. I don't need the common factor out of there. So let's divide this by 2 and this by 2. Okay? So that's step 1. Put a Y in chat if you understand what I did with step 1. Farley got it? Good. I'll do one that doesn't have an A in front. Okay, so what we do is you can only make a perfect square. Well, not always. But easiest way to make a perfect square is if that has nothing in front of it, or a 1 in front of it. So in order to get a 1 in front of it, what we do is we'll common factor out whatever number's in front of this. And we'll pull it out, okay? But only the first 2 terms. That's the only terms we have to do. Okay? So step 2 now says take half the value of the new value, number in front of the x, and square it. That's a horrible sentence I wrote. I'm going to redo it. Plus, I forgot a bracket. All right. I'm going to redo that and send it back out. So what we want to do now is we're going to take this term here, whatever your b value is. Okay? So our b value is 6. We're going to divide it by 2 to get 3. And then we're going to square 3 equal 9. What we're going to try to do inside this bracket is make a perfect square. Okay? Okay? This is all going to seem very weird to start. Now, question 3 says, add and subtract that number inside the bracket. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to write it in different colors. So we have y equals x squared plus 6. 6x. We already have that, don't we? But what we're going to do is we're going to add and subtract this number right here into our equation. So we're going to add 9 and minus 9. And the reason we add 9 and minus 9 is because we haven't changed the equation at all. Because we added 9 to it and we took off 9. So now we have 0, right? So we didn't add anything really to it, because 9 minus 9 equals 0. Okay. How are we doing with steps so far? Are we lost, completely lost, or have no idea? We're going to spend 2 days on this, so it'll come, and we have the steps here. Okay. I think all of today's stuff, we never even touch anything with a, let me see your homework actually today. I think today's homework, we don't actually do anything with something in front. No. So I'm giving you too hard of an example right away. Check my email here real quick.
Wait, so what do we got to do for today?
I'll show you in a second. All right. I'll show you in a second. But we'll do a hard one first, then we'll go back to easy ones. Okay. So now, actually, let's come back to this tomorrow. I'm going to go to the easy one right away. I'm going to move this one out of the way. Those are tomorrow questions. Let's do this one here. We'll go through the same steps. It just won't have one extra step. Y equals x squared plus it's the number that cuts in half right there. 8x minus 3. Okay. So for this one here, I'm going to restart this one. Since we don't have a number in front of a here, that's what I want to concentrate on. Okay. So since we don't have a number in front of a, or it's just 1, we don't need the common factor out. Okay. Then our next step, we go to b here, which I need to rewrite. And we're going to take our b value and divide it by 2. So we're going to take this number here. We go 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Okay. And then we're going to square it. 4 squared equals 16. Now that will give us this. Then we're going to add and subtract this number inside my bracket. So x squared plus 8x plus 16 minus 16 minus 3. So have I changed that equation at all? This new line right here. Have I changed that equation at all? I added 16 to it, and I minus 16 from it. So I haven't changed it. I added essentially 0 to it, because they cancel out. Okay. Now what I want to do, I'm going to rewrite this note and send it to you guys once I'm done this lesson, because this is for harder questions. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to put brackets around this. I'm going to isolate these first 3 terms. Okay. Then, oops, I should do that in purple so it matches. Can anyone factor this purple bracket for me? The 2 things that multiply to make that and multiply to make that. What's my numbers there? So I'm factoring this middle bracket here. What I've done here is I've made a perfect square. Good job, Jeannie. I made myself a perfect square. And now I can plug in here. Oops. That's x plus 4 and x plus 4. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to combine these two terms here and put it down here. So that'll become negative 19. I'm just putting those two together. Okay. Now, as we saw before, we don't need to write this term out twice. We can just write it out once and put a square to it. Does that make sense to everybody? How I rewrote that? Okay. Now, if we remember back to last week, I'm going to do it multiple times, Mia. Okay. I'm going to rewrite those. We'll rewrite the rules as we go. So if you remember the last week where we had this equation, y equals a bracket x minus h squared plus k, and how our vertex was h comma k. Could anyone tell me the vertex of this equation? What's my h and k numbers right here? Who wants to take a shot and tell me what my h and k numbers are? Good. Negative 14 is my h. Remember, it comes out of the bracket and switch signs. And negative 19 is my k. Let me do this real quick. Insert. Fine. Let's do one more here. So let's make an equation such as x squared plus 10x plus 50. Okay. Why is it 14 and not 4? Oh, sorry. My fault. That is 4. When I rewrote it, I wrote 14 back. 4, 4. Yeah. I wrote down the wrong number as I was pulling it down there. Good check, Haley. All right. I'll write down my steps as I do it. And zoom in here. So step 1 would be to divide the b value by 2 and then square Does that make sense, everyone? Divide the b value by 2, then square it. Does that make sense? Can you guys understand that wording? Or should I split it up into two numbers, two steps. All right. So our b value, remember, so y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So the b value refers to the number in front of just the plain x. Okay, so step one, I'm going to go 10 divide by 2 equals 5. Then I'm going to go 5 squared equals 25. So that's step one. Our goal is we're going to try to make a perfect square so we can make it in the vertex form. So step two now, add and subtract the number from step one into your equation between the b and c. So what I mean by that is I want it to go in between here. Okay. So step two, y equals x squared plus 10x. Then I'm going to add 25 minus 25. Then I still have my 50 here at the end. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. All right, then I'm going to say step three, brackets, put brackets in your first three terms. This just helps you visualize making your perfect square. Okay, so I'm going to put a bracket there. My first three terms are going to go inside my bracket. Oops. Okay. Then I'm going to say then you're going to combine your like terms outside your bracket. So that will be, what color are we going to do next? So y equals x squared plus 10x plus 25, and then I'm going to combine those together to get plus 25. Oops. No, it's a color. Let's go step 5. Will be we're going to factor the terms inside the bracket now. Okay. I'm going to put a note in there that they're a perfect square. It should be a perfect square now. So what's my factors for this one here? What's my factors for this right here? Good, 5 and 5. Now, I would like you to also bring it down to something that looks like this. Okay? Yeah, it will be. We should be done. If you understand this concept, you can go do your homework now, but generally we end around 2, Riley, right? So like we should be done in 20 minutes or so of going through all the questions. And then step 6 here would be identify your H and K value. And your vertex. So in this case, my H is going to be -5. My K is going to be 25. And my vertex is going to be 5, -5, comma 25. Okay. How does that work for everyone's? Do you understand what those steps I just wrote out? We'll do another one here to practice. But is there any step in here that you may not understand or you may want clarification on? That's a no. So let's do another one here. I'm going to give you one with a negative in it. Y equals x squared minus 14x plus 40. Okay? Give me a G when you're good to go here. Haley's ready to rock and roll. Question is Tessa ready? Ethan's good. Tessa's good to go. All right, so who wants to tell me my answer for my first step? So I'm going to divide my B value by 2 and then square it. So what number am I going to be putting in? Well, what number am I going to end up with? Farley, I'm going to get, let's have, if you think you know the answer, write it in chat, but don't press enter yet. Give everyone about 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, press enter and see if you can get the number in chat there. Farley says 49. Do we all agree with Farley? -14 divided by 2 is -7. That's a horrible 7. Can I change it? That's good. Let's fix it. All right, -7 squared equals 49. Perfect. Now step 2 says add and subtract the values from step 1 into your equation. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to do everything. So we're going to add 49 and minus 49. So what we're trying to do here is to make a perfect square. And as you guys pointed out above, the perfect square was always half of the middle number and squared. So we've kind of made our perfect square right here that we can then work with. Okay. So what's step 3 say now? Step 3 says put brackets around your first 3 terms. So where did that square come from? So I'm going to put brackets around these 3. Now, when you do it, you don't have to do every little step. Like some of these, like right here, when you had this, you could just put brackets around here and went from there. But I'm just going step by step so we can all understand what we're doing. Now, question 4, step 4 says, combine your like terms outside the bracket. So and that's going to equal -9. So I combine these 2 together. Then my step 5 says factor the terms inside the bracket. They should be a perfect square. So who wants to tell me what's going to go inside my bracket? Oops. What numbers are going to go in there? Remember, multiply to make this, and also multiply to make this. Who's going to inform me of that? -7s? Sounds great to me. X minus 7, X minus 7. Now, since they're the same in the bracket, we can then write it like this. Okay. Then our last step, what's my H value? What's my K value? And what is my vertex? So who would like to give me my H value or my K value? Other way around. Your H is 7. H is 7. So remember, it is y equals a bracket x minus h squared minus k. K is -9. And you put those 2 in your brackets to make your vertex. Good. How do we feel about this right now? Out of 5. Okay. All right. So we're a little bit all over the board, which is okay. So how about we do this? Let me look at homework right now. Now, today's your heaviest day of homework, okay? So I gave you 6 questions to do, okay? Now, when you do the questions, it says identify your H value. I said solve for HK and give me the vertex for each one. So how about for this? For the people who are hesitant, right? Maybe 3 and below. How about you try to do this question here, okay? And then I will work through this question in, I'll give you much time? Who needs to give me the time? Mia, how much time would be a reasonable time for you to attempt this question? How many minutes? Yeah, I hit record, Farley. No thanks to you. It was Mia who remembered this time.